Would I be the asshole for uninviting my brother because he's trying to ruin my father's funeral? I'll try to keep it short, but first of all, some context. I have 3 younger siblings, 2 brothers, Andrew and Ben, and 1 sister, Claire. When we were younger, my father discovered that Ben was homosexual. He was enraged and probably would have disowned Ben on the spot if it was not for the intervention of our mother. Dad and Ben never reconciled, and Dad did everything in his power to make Ben as uncomfortable as possible. Us siblings stayed close, but eventually Ben couldn't take the constant abuse anymore and moved out. Claire followed, but for career reasons, Andrew and I stayed in our hometown. Dad died of COVID complications a few days ago. As the eldest son of the family, it became my responsibility to prepare the funeral. He was a prominent member of the local community, so attendance will be high. Now we come to the main issue. Ben wanted to give a eulogy and sent me a draft of his speech. Unsurprisingly, the contents were not flattering and I rejected him on the spot. He got really angry and told me that this was his best chance to expose Dad's hypocrisy, especially since he had the image of a good family man. He wanted everyone to know how much abuse he suffered at the hands of our father. Now, I love Ben unconditionally. He's my younger brother, and there's not a lot of things that I would not do for him. However, this is one of them. It's simply not appropriate to speak ill of the dead at their own funeral, which is supposed to be a celebration of their life. For all his ugly, hideous flaws, Dad was a complicated person, and focusing the entire funeral on his relationship with one person is too much. There's also the fact that letting him do such a eulogy will probably cause a massive fallout in the community. Ben will not have to deal with the consequences because he lives in another state, but Andrew and I will be left picking up the pieces. Claire is on Ben's side for this one, while Andrew is on mine. I want to stress that I'm not trying to cover for my father or what he did to Ben, but there's a time and a place for such things, and a funeral is not it. Ben eventually backed down, but his husband has tipped me off that Ben is still preparing to cause trouble. I really do not want to do this, but it seems to me that uninviting my brother from the funeral is the only choice. Would I be the asshole if I did so? For those asking why I would even want to honor such a horrible man in the first place, it's complicated. Dad was a great father until the incident, which happened when I was in college. It's not easy being torn between 2 people you love. Even though I can say I did not hesitate to choose Ben, Dad was still the person that I grew up admiring and loving. I'm still sorting my own feelings out and trying to reconcile the loving father that raised me and my siblings with the man who threw away everything for his petty prejudices. For those asking about the fallout, it has to do with the town's local politics. That's all I'm willing to say. I'm going to do some last few clarifications here because people are making a lot of assumptions. No, we did not cover up the abuse. All 4 of us siblings have been clear to our friends and family why we moved out of the family house, and my mother has also made it clear why she and my late father were estranged, even if we did not go out of the way to air the family's dirty laundry. Ben has also made it clear that he does not resent any of us besides our father, and us falling out would be just what our dad would have wanted. I might have understated a bit when I referred to the eulogy draft as unflattering. It was vulgar, vile, and definitely not appropriate for a funeral. Even if I had agreed with Ben's plan, there was no chance I would have approved the draft. The eulogy would have reflected badly on him and not my father. I'm not going to ask Ben to keep the abuse a secret. He's free to tell anyone he likes, on Facebook, the local obituary, etc. I just think that the funeral is not the appropriate time, and especially not through a eulogy. In the comments, Crystal Queen says, "Firstly, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm going against the grain here. You're the asshole. Denying Ben closure to keep up appearances in the community is cruel. You and others experienced your father in a very different way than he did. Do I think he should read a eulogy? No, but he shouldn't be uninvited. He may cause a scene, he might not. I guarantee you he's going to show up with or without your permission, and he'll be responsible for how he behaves. I think your response is fair. OP is suffering and wants to say goodbye in peace, but his brother never got closure about how he was hurt and is angry. OP has organized an event to deal with his own loss and say goodbye in peace, and that's despite the opinions fair. But he has no control over his brother's actions, and that's also fair. While as the organizer he can avoid the harsh eulogy, he shouldn't take away the right of his brother of assist and take a decision about how he will behave that is fully on his brother. You're the asshole. You can keep your brother from doing the eulogy, but barring him from the funeral to protect the legacy of a bigot and save yourself some inconvenience is you choosing your abusive, dead father over the living brother that he victimized. I honestly find this post disturbing. You and your family should have done more to protect your brother. Not the asshole for not wanting drama at a funeral. However, if your dad managed to maintain this image despite his actions, and you agree that your dad was in the wrong for what he did to Ben, then I feel you have a responsibility to address his flaws and false image. Not to mention, other people presumably know about Ben and their rocky relationship, or will have questions about why Ben isn't attending if he is uninvited. So questions will be asked regardless. Whether this is addressed inside or outside the funeral is ultimately up to the organizers, you, but as a member of the LGBT community myself, my sympathy goes to Ben here. As far as I'm concerned, your dad failed to be a father. I agree with the comments here. I think it's okay to say no to him giving a eulogy like that. I think that's a bridge too far. But uninviting him from the funeral, just no, don't do that. And my initial take on that was not even like it's going to cause more drama than inviting him. It's more like it's his dad. Whether he had a bad relationship with him or not, you can't just say, no, actually, you're not allowed to be at the funeral. I personally don't feel like that's a decision that you can make for him. If he doesn't want to come to the funeral, that's fine, but you can't bar him from his own father's funeral. And there are definitely situations where he's done something incredibly messed up to you, he's done something messed up to the father, he's done crimes against humanity. Yeah, in those situations I can be like, yeah, keep him as far away as possible. But here, you've given no good reason besides the fact that he is rightfully pissed off at his father, and he wants to set the record straight, somehow. You barring him from the funeral is going to actually have the opposite effect of what you intend, because he's going to do something crazy and show up anyway, and it's going to be even worse for you and your image, OP. So yeah, you're the asshole. And now, onto the update. Hello, it's been one of the longest weeks of my life, but the funeral has finally concluded. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Some people sent me messages for an update, so here you go. First of all, it would have been a mistake to rescind the invite to my brother, and thank you to the people who pointed out that I had no way of keeping him out of the church without asking security to throw him out. That would probably have been almost as bad, if not worse, than the eulogy. I had to deal with a lot of people during the funeral preparations, many of them unpleasant but influential, and was really not in the right state of mind to make decisions. It was wrong of me to try to deny Ben closure, though I do have to say that the comments accusing me of being complicit in, or not having done enough to stop my brother's abuse, were out of line. A singular post where I am actively trying to limit personal information is not a fair basis from which to extrapolate our family relationships, and it seems to me that many of the commenters have their own emotional baggage that they're trying to project onto my relationship. I met up with my brother and his husband a few days after he gave me the eulogy. Thank you to those who suggested that I ask about his motivations and provided alternate perspectives. We had a surprisingly brief talk. In short, Ben did not want us, his immediate family, to lionize our father. We agreed that Ben would come, but we would leave the eulogy to Dad's friends, and we would hold a private wake for his immediate family only. The funeral was mostly uneventful. A few questions were asked by the priest and my father's friends why none of his children or his wife were giving eulogies, but I just explained that we were leaving it for the wake. At the wake, we all got to say what we wanted to say, and I will leave it at that. Thanks to whoever suggested the after-funeral party. We went to our childhood home and had a great time. Due to COVID, we really hadn't had the chance to meet up much, and this was the first time we've had in a long time to catch up. After the funeral, we published an obituary with sections from each part of the family. It was tacitly worded, and choosing the right words was a pain, but Ben had fun with his section. All in all, I think the matter was settled quite nicely. Thank you again for everyone who gave advice and everyone who provided their kind words. In the comments, individualad9213 says, "Congratulations on your willingness and ability to compromise and your deft diplomatic skills. Let me add, not the asshole, of course." OP says, "Thank you, but most of the praise should go to my brother's husband. I cannot thank that man enough for everything he has done. I figure that by the time we met, my brother was already ready to drop the issue, and I'm glad that we found a solution where everyone could be satisfied. It's great that you were able to pull together as a family to deal with this situation." OP says, "It's great, isn't it? I'm really lucky to be surrounded by wonderful people. Take the issue of my father's inheritance, for example. I have heard horror stories of families torn apart by fighting over scraps, and even though I love my siblings, money can change people, and I really was not looking forward to executing the will. What's more, my father left the majority of his assets in generation-skipping trusts, so I thought that Ben would be upset for sure. We settled it on the day of the funeral. God, I am so lucky. None of the family gave eulogies is so goddamn devastating and is very, very obvious. One of the kids gave a negative eulogy, makes Ben the bad guy and Dad the victim, but none of the chief mourners spoke, but other friends did, is a case where silence is louder than a scream, and people definitely noticed. Sometimes silence is more eloquent than words. I think OP handled this the right way. I think they took the criticism and negativity that came with that first post and turned it into probably the best solution possible here, because I'm of the mind that giving such a negative eulogy only really paints you in a bad light, and it's not typical of funerals to be shitting on the dead instead of celebrating the dead's life. So keeping it to just the immediate family at the post-funeral wake, genuinely such a good idea, because you get the best of both worlds. I'm glad that OP's brother-in-law was able to talk some sense into his husband, and was able to bridge the gap that OP obviously wasn't able to bridge themselves in that first post. It's good to see humanity win in the end, and not cause a family to implode in on itself and start fighting over a man that was obviously bad for everyone. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update, OP. Our next post is by user Cramping My Style, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole here for letting my pregnant daughter move in with me, even though my girlfriend doesn't want her to? I, 40 male, have an 18-year-old daughter with my ex-wife. We'll call her Maddie. We divorced when she was 7, and I have her 3 weekends a month. Her mum moved to a suburb almost an hour outside the city to be closer to her family and for a better school. My work was in the city, and after a while, Maddie got sick of all the driving and asked if we could move to a different schedule. We talked most days on the phone, and I've been very involved in her life. She's a great student, graduated with over a 4.0, has lots of friends, and a, what I thought, very nice boyfriend. She has no idea what she wants to do with her life, and had already decided to defer her scholarship a year to take classes at the community college and work. I also have a girlfriend, Vera, who is 37, and she gets along with Maddie great. We've been together about 2 years, and she just moved into my house a few months ago. Edit, her old roommate got married and she couldn't afford rent alone. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and I was considering proposing, so it seemed like a good idea after she couldn't find another place. She pays the electric and water bills, but my house is paid off, so I just pay taxes, insurance, and the other utilities. And it's been great. I didn't really date much the past few years between Maddie and work, so it's nice having someone always around. Vera doesn't want kids of her own, and I don't want any more either, so it's been great. So for all of that, Maddie is pregnant, and her mum has kicked her out. Her boyfriend has another year left of nursing school and lives in a college apartment with roommates. She is, of course, staying here for now and found out late. She is due in January. She and her boyfriend went over the options and decided to keep the baby. She told me very meekly and asked if she could stay. I told her of course. She knows this is disappointing, but she'll never stop being my baby, and if this is what's going to happen, I'm here to support her within reason. As in, I'm fine babysitting if she has work or class, and she will keep working and going to school, but I'm not babysitting for her to party or to hang out with friends. If the boyfriend bails, which I was as kind as I could be, but told her happens even with the nicest boys, she would need to file child support, and I would give her grace before and after birth, but when she's recovered, she will go back to doing chores on top of the baby ones. I told her and the boyfriend to sleep on it, and they did come back with actual thoughtful responses, and even a budget and budget goal that I found impressive. So the tiny bedroom next to Maddie's that is currently home to a treadmill that I never use is going to be a nursery. Of course, I have kept Vera in the loop during all of this. Edit. And by this, I mean I don't know how many different ways I need to put this so it gets through people's heads. Vera and I discussed all of this before I talked to the kids, in depth. I made her very aware that the three of them could end up living here for a few years. She was supportive. I kept her in the loop. When them living here became the plan, she gave me an ultimatum and told me to kick my daughter out because she's an adult. I told her that I wouldn't do that. She is still here and making everyone uncomfortable, and she seemed really understanding until I told her the plan. She got upset and said that if she wanted to raise a baby, she'd have one of her own. She said she didn't sign up for this and is not okay with it, and demanded I rescind the offer, that Maddie is 18 and needs to figure it out on her own if she wants to keep the baby. I told her I wouldn't do that. She will always be my daughter and she needs help. She threatened to move out if I didn't tell Maddie to get out, and then got mad that I told her I understood. Now she's avoiding the both of us, but still staying here or being snippy. I don't know what she expects me to do, but it's making the entire house anxious. Edit. Stop saying that Vera would be shocked that Maddie moved in. This is Maddie's home. She has always lived here. Yes, the rest is a surprise, but not my daughter living in her home. In the comments, Rjack says, "Say goodbye to this relationship." Opie already said he chose his daughter over his girlfriend, but the girlfriend, who was supposedly ready to leave, has nowhere to go and can't afford to live independently, so she's just angry that her ultimatum didn't work while still living with OP. Funny how that works. The girlfriend thinks OP's pregnant 18-year-old must be independent and out of the house, while she, 37 and without any children, should be given shelter and food on the table. Right? OP says his girlfriend couldn't afford rent on her own after her roommate left, but OP's daughter at 18 and pregnant should just figure it out. Eye roll. Time to tell your girlfriend she can do what's best for her, but your daughter will probably be here for 3 to 4 years. Let her know that you want her to stay, but your life will change. OP says, "That's what I told her. She's not happy about it and is being rude to me." Dude, she showed a very mean side of her. Don't ignore that. You wrote, "She said she didn't sign up for this and is not okay with it and demanded that I rescind the offer, that Maddie is 18 and needs to figure it out on her own if she wants to keep the baby." That's just vile. Sorry, not sorry, and you know it. Also, Vera is 37 years old and needs to figure it out on her own if she wants exclusive say in who gets to stay in the household. She can find and pay for her own place if she wants to insist on staying child-free. If the 18-year-old without a finished education and without a proper job is old enough to get tossed into the street and forced to fend for herself, so can Vera. I wouldn't want to keep dating someone who would kick my 18-year-old pregnant daughter out. 18 is barely an adult, and actual adults who think 18 is a proper age to be 100% on your own are a problem. Good job still being willing to be a parent to your child when she needs you, not the asshole. Yeah, I say get rid of Vera. Vera's a piece of shit, man. No empathy whatsoever, no self-awareness, doesn't care for your daughter, is like, oh, you know what, this is my house too, I totally own this and have a say in this. OP, She's a girlfriend. She is not a fiancé. She is not a wife of many years. She is not someone that has been in your life for a significant amount of time. 2 years is a flash in the pan in the grand scheme of things. For her to be making stupid demands and ultimatums like this shows that she is out of her goddamn mind. She's out of her mind for making you choose between her and your pregnant daughter, because of course you're going to choose your pregnant daughter. Who wouldn't? You're not a piece of shit like your ex that threw her out of the house and said, you know what? Good luck in life, buddy. Especially given the current circumstances of the world. You are blessed to have a house that is paid off. You are blessed to be in a position in which you can provide for your child and your grandchild and set them up for a life of success that many do not have the ability to do. And Vera thinks, no, you shouldn't be a dad. You shouldn't be a good parent. You should be an asshole and make her suffer. If I were you, Vera's mask has slipped. I would kick her to the curb and let her figure her life out. And now, onto the updates. So my last post got a little overwhelming. I'm still glad that I did it. Reading the comments, I just got to the point that I was like, what am I doing? I asked Vera to talk. She started. She actually did kind of apologize. She said she was just stressed because she expected Maddie to either keep the same custody schedule or maybe a bit more, but not full-time and certainly not with a baby. And then she didn't think that I'd actually let her live here with the baby. She said she'd be able to work with a compromise of Maddie and the boyfriend, let's call him Doug, getting their own place when he started working full-time, and they could promise to never ask her for help. I guess she thought as long as she has an end in sight, she would be able to handle it. I told her I understood, but her behavior was out of line, and I can't see us working out after this. She was upset and seemed shocked and got pretty mad. I told her she was welcome to stay in the basement, finished walk out with a kitchenette for a month while she found a new place, and I would pay her back for the bills that she had paid. $7.90, so I rounded up to $1,000. She wasn't happy at any of this and was freaking out, so I called and asked Maddie if she could go to stay with Doug for the night. I offered to give Vera some space, and she told me to fuck off. I was working from home that day, so I was around, but not in her way at all, while she moved her things downstairs. She had work that night and let me know the next morning that she'd be moving to her friends. I offered help, but again she said no and left her key on the counter. I changed the security code, but told her that if she left anything there just to let me know and I'd let her in to come and get it. So I thought there'd be no drama. I was actually obviously sad, but felt better about the whole thing. We can't prove anything, but Maddie's carnivore plant started rapidly dying the last few days, and she said a bunch of her concentrated fertilizer was gone. We all know not to touch them or water them, as in she had me install rain barrels because they can't have tap water. She's devastated and hasn't said it directly, but we both think Vera did something to them. I've asked her if she wants me to do anything about it, and she's said no. And at one point, Vera sent her a nasty text saying she's the reason that I'm alone and she hopes she's happy. I told her to block her. I don't know if she feels guilty or like she deserves it. She doesn't even want me to replace them and said that she'll just try to salvage some of them. So if anyone knows of good sites in the US to buy pictures or pings, hit me up. So not great. I'm gonna stay single for a while, obviously, but there's some good news. I have a female friend who Maddie has known forever and has had kids, and she took her out to lunch. My issue was that Maddie thought she could power through and take courses in the spring with a newborn. She wouldn't listen to me and told me that she would make it work. My friend was able to convince her that 1 semester was not going to ruin her life, so that's a positive. And the boyfriend, Doug? I talked with his parents. They are like me. Not thrilled, but going to be supportive and excited for a grandbaby. They live over an hour away though, but told them that I had a spare room that they could use when they visit. And Doug, who does work part-time while he's in school, I told him yes, work this semester, but next semester, your #1 job is to finish your degree no matter what. I am willing to support them both financially, and with the baby more than I normally would next semester, because I know the best way to ensure my grandbaby has a good life is making sure their dad has his degree and a good job. He seemed to understand and was thankful. Maybe he's not as much of a ding-dong as I thought he was. TLDR, I broke up with Vera and she moved into a friend's. We don't know if it was her, but Maddie's plants have been dying and she's devastated, but the boyfriend is doing good and moving in so he can be a present parent. In the comments, Soggy Detective says, "You're a great example to Doug in how to father a child." Yes, OP is. You are doing a wonderful thing for your daughter and her boyfriend. It's ideal to do things in a certain order, but it doesn't always work out that way. OP giving them a place to stay and supporting them and their baby so they can finish school is amazing. OP is my hero dad for today. Good riddance to Vera. As far as the plants go, I'd try transplanting them. Remove as much soil as possible from the roots first. You're a great dad, OP, and I hope your daughter and her partner really make the most out of the opportunity that you've given them. I hope other parents take note that you don't have to be thrilled with everything your kid does and can be disappointed, but it doesn't mean that you leave them hanging. Your ex sounds like an ass. You're a parent and always will be. I agree with all of that. I think OP's done a stand-up job. And just to round back to that last comment, don't think Vera realizes that being child-free with your partner as it is doesn't mean that he gives up on his child that he currently has completely. Obviously they're not going to make more children, but if his daughter is in dire straits and he's a genuine and decent guy, of course he's going to do everything he can to look after that child. And you can be child-free with a single parent that has someone that is of adult age, but things can and do change. That's just life. Life happens to people, and if you are not prepared to adapt to that life change, it is okay to walk out the door. You don't have to scream, cry, manipulate, make a fuss, and try and force OP to be someone that he will not be. That's what I viewed Vera as doing, and she got kicked out as a result of doing that. That's what she deserved. So again, thank you, OP, for doing the correct thing by your child. You are setting your grandchild up for the best future possible, and I personally couldn't be prouder. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update. Our next post is by user Twinkle Dog Farts, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for getting upset with my husband over hand-me-down clothes for our newborn?" Hey y'all. So my mum lives a few states away and is not able to help prepare for her first grandchild the way that she would like to, unfortunately. A friend of hers asked her if she would like some baby clothes, some slightly worn and some never used before. I said of course, and my mum went through all of the clothes and washed it and mailed it to me. So when we received the box of clothes, I was pretty excited to go through it as we haven't bought anything baby related yet. As I mentioned, this is my and my husband's first child. I think I showed him maybe 2 pieces of clothing, and I could already tell he was unhappy. He said we would just donate all of this stuff to Goodwill because he wanted to buy all new clothes for our baby, to which I said, of course, we will still buy new clothes, but it's nice to have a good amount of clothes, especially since they go through clothes like crazy, or so I've heard anyway. He just said no, that his child won't wear hand-me-downs, so I stopped showing him clothes and started packing up the box. So he then asked why I was upset and that he still wanted to see the stuff, but I didn't see the point anymore, as he had pretty much ruined the moment and the gesture for me at that point. I know it's not new clothes, but my mum was just trying to help, and she literally went through the mountain of clothes and washed every single item. The box smelled amazing when I opened it. I don't know. It hurt my feelings, honestly, for him to dismiss it like that and just say that we would donate it all without even taking the time to look through it, and I guess because this is the first time we look at baby stuff together, it hurt even more. He got upset and then said he didn't understand why I was making him the bad guy for saying he wants to buy all new clothes. In the comments, Chloe Pecan says, "Not the asshole. You're doing good for the environment and your wallets. As long as they are clean and not destroyed, then it doesn't matter." I've never once heard a rational person say, "Thank God I got new clothes for my baby that they outgrew in a month. I'm so glad they weren't used." Baby clothes are pretty pointless new if you can get used. It can be nice to get a couple of cute photo outfits, but it's not worth spending $100 on something that'll only be used for a month or two. Yup, the husband doesn't really seem to understand that baby clothes are expensive, disposable items. Babies make a mess and grow fast. You might as well go all in on hand-me-downs until at least the toddler years. Yeah, he probably has the mindset of hand-me-downs being a symbol of poor, but the kid won't know the difference until it gets to be 7 or so. Then they can worry about the hot new fashions that are really the same thing with different pop stars attached to them. You know, I've always found it funny that people really get anal about baby clothes. Because I've definitely run into people before that are like, "No, absolutely not. We're not using that used garbage. It's new clothes or nothing. If they're used, that means they're diseased, and my baby's gonna die, and people are gonna judge us, and the whole world is gonna come down on us because we used this disgusting used baby clothes. Ew. I'm not poor. I'm rich. I got Joneses to keep up with. Come on, man." I fully understand why they feel the way they do. I get it, but I still think that it's irrational and weird. I'm gonna judge people that have those mindsets around baby clothes because they aren't gonna last forever. No one cares. Literally no one cares that your baby is wearing used clothes. They see a baby and they're like, "Oh, cute baby," and then move on. Or there's someone that is anti-natalist and goes, "Ew, disgusting baby, get it away from me." But in neither of those circumstances is the person going, "Look at this poor, wearing poor clothes that are used." No, it's just not happening. That's weird. You should talk to him, OP. You should snap him out of it. And now, onto the update, 5 years later. So I got curious about my original post from a throwaway account and felt like providing an unnecessary and not at all requested update. I kept all of the hand-me-downs. I genuinely don't recall, as it's been 5 years, what led to it no longer being an issue, but I think he understood where I was coming from. We bought a lot of new clothes for our baby together and had fun going to Buy Buy Baby Back when it still existed and seeing all of the baby stuff and shopping what we needed. It was a mix of seeing all the other costs, monitor, stroller, crib, mattress, etc., pile up, but also understanding my mum's good heart to appreciate all of the clothes she sent. Let me tell you, it took a hot minute to put it all away. You know the XL Home Depot moving boxes? She sent one of those stacked with all sorts of clothes. If I remember correctly, shipping alone was $100 plus as it was going coast to coast. For all those worried that he was gaslighting and being manipulative, we're fine. We had another baby together 2 years later and are still happily married. Of course, our second was a girl, so while she did get a lot of hand-me-downs from her brother, she got a lot of cute girly things of her own. For what it's worth, it has all been a huge learning experience for us both, as I'm sure it is for any new parent. We, or he, learned to embrace the hand-me-downs, and some of my most sentimental pieces worn by both of our kids were not new when we received them. We learned how quickly kids go through clothes, and how if you really look at it, aside from the blowouts, baby clothes get the least use. They're just drooly potatoes. Toddler clothes is a whole other ballgame. The knees on clothes don't stand a chance. All this to say, we learned to communicate about a lot, and while we still disagree about even more, we are always in a position to discuss it and work through it. He is an amazing father, and some of you hit the nail on the head when you said he might be basing his worth on what he can provide for them. Most importantly, what he constantly gives them, even on his busiest days, is his time. And all the hand-me-downs? Well, the pile grew with our additions, and we happily gave it to one of his cousins who had their first baby about a year ago, with my holding back my most sentimental pieces for keepsakes. My mum's a seamstress, so I've challenged her to make a teddy bear with them. I just need to ship them to her. She's come out and visited multiple times, and vice versa, but that's always forgotten. In the comments, "Oh, the delusions of first-time parenthood. All new clothes for a baby? Lol. Glad he got off that quickly. A friend has patchwork quilts made for each child. They are all 15 plus, made of different fabrics from their childhoods. Baby blankets, soccer team or day camp jerseys, Halloween costumes, etc. I want a do-over, grandchild, to make such a collection. And OP says, I love this. Every vacation we've taken, I've gotten them t-shirts from the place so that I can make them a quilt of all of them when they turn 18. May or may not have stolen that from Twilight. This was such a wholesome update. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense now that you explained it. Becoming new parents comes with so many emotions, expenses, and expectations. So of course, the clothes felt like a bigger deal at the time. I love that you both found a balance between enjoying the fun of buying new things together and appreciating the love behind the hand-me-downs. The way you described the drooly potato stage made me laugh because it's so true. Newborn clothes barely see any wear before the next growth spurt. It's sweet that those little outfits ended up holding sentimental value instead of resentment, and even sweeter that you passed them on to someone else starting their journey. The teddy bear idea from your mum is going to be such a beautiful keepsake. It sounds like you and your husband learned the most important thing, not to avoid disagreements, but to actually work through them. Your kids will carry that lesson just by watching you two. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.